Hello and welcome to Tarot Electric. I am Mary Shock. I've got a tarot card for you all today, and it is the Devil. Okay, don't get scared. Don't freak out. We're gonna talk about it. We've been doing this series of pulling one card from the major arcana for each podcast episode, and we're really coming down to the end. After today, we only have two cards left, and I knew that we hadn't pulled the Devil yet, so I was really wondering, okay, when is this happening? And now is the time. So the Devil's a super difficult card in the tarot to interpret sometimes, I think. For me, it is maybe the scariest card. Having gone to Catholic school and had a very intensely Catholic upbringing, the Devil is something that scares me way more than getting the death card or anything like that. So it took a while for me to kind of learn what this card meant for me and within tarot's history, and to really understand what this card had to offer. And I feel like I've definitely come around to a place now where I know what it's about, and it's not always a bad thing. So the Devil is basically, when you get it in tarot, you're looking at your shadow self, right? So all of us have a shadow self, and it's not inherently a negative thing. I don't think the Devil is inherently a negative card, but I do think that it calls us to look at our Devil self. So just to start with kind of some of the ways the Devil card could be a positive when you get it in tarot, is it's a calling to rise up your animal self, your shadow self, everything that we typically suppress. The Devil calls you to let it out. So the Devil can be a great card to party under, okay? So if you are feeling like you're not getting enough out of your life in terms of creative, passionate expression and being able to follow your impulses, the Devil wants you to bring all of that up and out. So the Devil can be a really fun card to express yourself as a creative, passionate, sexual person. And the Devil honors all of those things. Where the Devil becomes kind of tips into something that's more of a warning is when we may be following our impulses to our detriment, where we may be ignoring our spiritual side and only acting on our materialistic impulses. So when we're too entrenched in this physical world, and when we don't have the bigger spiritual picture in mind, that's when the Devil comes up to say, hey, how can you find a balance with your life in this physical world, but also keeping in mind your spiritual path. And the Devil only comes up in tarot when we are ready to look at our shadow self, when we're ready to examine everything that we push down. So sometimes the Devil comes up to have us examine cycles or patterns in our life that are no longer serving us, that we are ready to move on and move past. We have to have a moment of facing these patterns, and that's what the Devil gives us. So when we think about the Devil in terms of temptation or addictions, that's what it's referring to. So if we have patterns within ourselves, that's negative thought patterns, negative relationship patterns with either other people or a substance or an environment or just a cycle in our life that we're saying, oh, I'm ready to get over this. It's no longer helping me in my life. The Devil gives us that time to really face anything that we are addicted to or in servitude to, and then it allows us to free ourselves. So the Devil is actually a really important card in tarot, and it's also a really important archetype in our life, because we have to have these moments of looking at the shadow, and the Devil makes a sacrifice as a piece of us. It makes a sacrifice to be that shadow so that we can feel what it is to be that deep within our own shadow, and then to balance out and move forward in our life in harmony with our shadow. So it's really a piece of us that makes the ultimate sacrifice to be that that kind of space, to take up that kind of space in the shadow. So at this time, since we all pulled the card, I would just look at how you can find balance within, and if there are passionate, creative, fiery aspects of your life that you need to bring more of, then the devil is something that you can call up. And if you are looking at cycles that you're ready to rid yourself of, this is the time to really move on from those. So I hope that helps with the devil. And it's a challenging card, but it's also a totally interesting card, and it can be really like sexy and beautiful and fun also. So have some fun with it. Okay, on today's podcast, I've got a great interview for you all with the fabulous Cheryl Fair. Cheryl is a tarot reader, astrologer, photographer, artist, creator of the Magical Realism Tarot, an amazing tarot deck, and just all around great person who I've been able to connect with on my tarot journey here in Baltimore, and who has so generously offered to present at an upcoming BMore Tarot Club meeting. So listen to this interview. You're going to fall in love with Cheryl. You're going to want to hear more from her. You're going to want to have her bust some astrology myths for us. You're going to want to check out the Magical Realism Tarot deck. So listen to this interview, get excited, and then come out to Cheryl's presentation with BMore Tarot Club. And that's this coming Sunday, if you're listening like right now, October 1st at Holy Underground. There's going to be a link in the show notes. Cheryl's going to bring her deck, so you can purchase the deck there. There's going to be all kinds of links in the show notes to where you can connect with Cheryl to get your astrology chart read, to buy your Magical Realism deck, and to check out her art and photography. So, Cheryl, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I really hope that everybody enjoys. I also am just going to plug the Patreon for Tarot Electric and BMore Tarot Club. I'll put a link in the show notes, and if you want to support Tarot Electric, I would be so much appreciative and grateful to you. For just $1 a month, you can get access to the tarot scopes. I'm working on them now. They're going to come out on the 1st. So if you sign up and support Tarot Electric on Patreon, you can read your monthly tarot scopes from me, and that's coming out soon for October. So check out the show notes. Many blessings. Enjoy the show. Cheryl Fair, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We've got amazing Baltimore tarot reader, photographer, artist, astrologer, Cheryl Fair in the building. So yeah, we're just happy to have you. And how are you feeling?
Thank you. I feel great.
Cool.
It's great to be talking to you.
Amazing. Yeah, as soon as I started like really putting myself out there in the Baltimore tarot scene, I would have everyone say, do you know Cheryl Fair? Do you know Cheryl Fair? And like your work was up at Mud and Metal at the time, like when I first started really putting myself out there in a really big way. People were just, everyone was like, oh, you have to connect with Cheryl Fair and you have to see your work. So you're definitely like a well-known Baltimore tarot name, and it's really nice to connect with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's nice to hear.
So I'm wondering if we can start by just getting a little bit of your background in tarot, what brought you to tarot and kind of this magical part of the world.
Well, my mother read cards for people when I was growing up. She used a playing card deck, regular playing cards. Yeah. And I remember, people in the kitchen and her reading cards. And it wasn't like a business, she did it for friends and family. Mm-hmm. And she said that her mother read cards with playing cards as well. That's how she learned it. She would never teach me specifically, though, but she let me watch. And I would ask questions. And I actually do still use some of her methods. Like, it really had an effect on me. But she refused to teach me. She gave it up as she got older. she said it scared her when she saw bad things happen and then they happened. And she didn't like that. And so she stopped. But I feel like if you have the skills, that you should help people. And sometimes they need to be prepared for things that are going to happen. I don't like to frighten people, and I try really hard not to, even if it looks bad. You never know exactly how it's going to manifest anyway, you know, but it's good to tell people, you know, expect the unexpected, you know,
Completely.
or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I was always interested in it and curious about it. And so as soon as I was 18, I bought my first tarot deck and started studying that. And it was Rider-Waite, of course. That was pretty much all that was available at the time. And I still have Rider-Waite decks. I have about 30 decks that I keep. I give away some. You know, if I like them, I keep them. And I've slowed way down on getting new ones just because you can't really play with that many.
Right.
You know, and sometimes I get rid of some and I'll get another one.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Just swap it out like an art collection, you know.
Right.
So yeah, and at the time, well, most of my adult life, I was hanging out with a lot of musicians and other artists and stuff. I managed bands. I made clothes for bands for a year. I started when I was 14. I started making clothes for bands, and then I went into managing bands a few years later. And so the tarot cards went over really well with my friends, you know.
Yes.
It's like, oh, Cheryl, she's the one that reads our cards. You know? So that's how I got a lot of practice.
It's a good, like, extra service as a manager. Like, I'll get you gigs and read your tarot.
Exactly.
Like, we'll tell you what's coming up. You might get a lot of temperance. Tell them to, like, calm down.
Yeah, and that's funny because that's when I used to get the High Priestess all the time as me. Like it would come up in their cards and I would know that was me telling them what to do.
Right.
And it was really funny, which is how I ended up being the High Priestess in my own deck. But yeah, so that's how it happened.
I love
that's how I got started. Yeah. And in my little booklet that goes with my deck, I thanked my mother and my grandmother.
Yeah. So cool that you're from a lineage of readers.
Family tradition.
Yeah. That must have, I mean, you said it influenced you. I can't imagine how it wouldn't. Like seeing your mom working in that way with like family and friends, like of course you would be fascinated, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we used to play card games too with my dad, you know, like as a family.
Okay.
So it was funny to see the difference.
Right.
You know, and interestingly, when I was listening to your podcast the other day, you were talking about time in tarot, and I'm with you right there. She did the same thing. She would say within 3.
So because she would get a 3 of hearts or something like that.
Right. And she'd say within 3. And they go, what do you mean? And she'd say 3 hours, 3 days, 3 months, 3 years.
Wait, hours? Hold the phone. I never thought of hours.
Yeah.
That really changes things. That's cool. I'm going to add that.
It depends, you know,
right.
On the situation. But yeah, so I really do think that's the only way you can tell time. But also, I guess, if you're doing a reading, and depending on the layout, you can, you know, if it looks like any real conclusion is taking a really long time to come up in the layout, obviously you figure it's going to take a while to come up for real.
Sure. So for finding the time in a spread, would you like typically pick a whole new card, or would you look at the cards that are already there?
Both, depending on the reading, depending on the layout and stuff. Yeah,
right.
And what's funny is I was also listening to your yes no stuff because I'm also not big on yes no.
Okay,
that's part of why I enjoyed your podcast so much, is because a lot of your stuff reminded me of my mom's.
Aww.
Yeah, and she wasn't even using tarot, but the 13 card yes no with the aces. That's the one I use. I also don't like to rely on yes and no because I think it's so changeable.
Yes.
But when you get an ace right away, you could probably figure it's yes, and you know, and people don't respond well to yes and no. They think that's what they want, but it doesn't really help them very much.
Completely. That's the thing. And it's like you said, your whole inspiration for continuing with tarot, even when like you saw how it kind of overwhelmed your mom, but you said that like you felt called to continue because of the way you can help people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the yes or no as well. You're right that it's not that helpful, so I don't do it that much. But it is fun sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is fun sometimes. But you have to make sure that I do it more for myself than other people.
Completely.
Because I know, not how much stock to put in it.
Right. Completely.
Yeah.
So like if y'all are listening to this and you want to hear like all of the deets on the time and the yes no spread, that's in the episode just right before this, and it was called Tips, Tricks, and Thoughts. So you can listen to that one and get like all the details, but it's cool and validating for me that you like resonate with that. Yeah. So that's dope.
I thought it was excellent.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, like right after I did that podcast, I did the yes no spread for me. And I really didn't take my own advice because I definitely did it on a question that I have like a vested interest in. Like it kind of would have hurt me if I gotten a no. But the very first card I pulled was the Ace of Pentacles.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, dope.
Yeah.
That's a yes. So well, first of all, like, how does your mom feel when you start reading tarot cards?
Well, she died in 2006.
Okay.
But she, she was kind of neutral about it.
Okay.
She really didn't say one thing or the other.
Right.
She didn't. I think I turned out different than she expected.
Sure.
And she became religious in her old age.
Okay.
But she was pretty open-minded.
Yeah.
She was actually the smartest woman I ever met.
Oh.
But when I tried to explain astrology to her, and she was really into the Bible, and I explained how it works, and she goes, "Oh, wheels within wheels, like in Ezekiel."
Really?
And I was like, exactly. And she goes, "That makes sense." And I said, "And the 3 wise men were the 3 astrologers, right?" She goes, "Oh, I already knew that."
Wait, hold the phone.
She was really smart, yeah.
And open.
And open-minded, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So she was okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she never did teach me.
She knew you had to learn it for yourself, maybe.
I'm like that with everything anyway, yeah.
Okay.
I always say I'm unteachable. If I'm interested in something, I'll learn it so fast. And if I'm not, there's just no way to make me learn it,
So what about astrology? When did you start?
About the same time, actually. I was a little older when I was exposed to it.
Yeah.
But I was about 18 when I got my first book about astrology, other than reading my horoscope and stuff. And I started reading everything I could find. Literally hundreds of astrology books. And then later ended up going to lectures and stuff like that. In the early 90s, my husband and I were the technical team for recording the Project Hindsight stuff with Robert Hand and Robert Zoller. It was all about the medieval astrology and even older than that.
Okay.
It was like, I've really taken it. It's a really serious study for me. And I started doing charts for other people professionally in the early 90s.
Okay.
And I also, like, early on, they used to have a website that was where people put their songs up and stuff. It was like SoundCloud, but it wasn't SoundCloud. It was like mp3.com or something.
Okay.
And I put up a thing that had astrology stuff on it. And it got so many hits, I got to buy a new office chair with the money. So,
whoa.
I could see that there's a lot of interest in it, And I've taught classes occasionally. A long time ago, I taught classes at Llamas Books when there was a Llamas Books downtown.
I've never heard of that.
It was a lesbian bookstore behind City Cafe.
Okay.
And now City Cafe takes up the whole space.
Okay.
But a friend of mine managed the store, and she said, "Yeah, you should come and teach here." So I did, and it was fun. And I did it for a couple years.
Wow.
And I wrote an astrology column for a magazine for 7 years.
Oh, that's cool.
It was the Urbanite, but the Urbanite that most people remember is the large format.
Yeah.
And I was with them when Laurel Dernberger was the editor, and it was a small format.
Okay.
And she started it, and then she sold it to those people.
Okay.
So I did it for 7 years, and then she was leaving the publication at the same time that I was starting law school.
Yeah.
And so it was a good time for me to stop.
Okay.
And I don't think they wanted horoscopes in there anyway.
Okay.
But I was always impressed with how many people read it. I would run into people everywhere that would say, "Oh, I read your column." And I was shocked because it was, like a 2-sentence sun sign column,
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be that accurate with a sun sign column, you know. It's just a suggestion.
Right.
You know, to be really accurate, you need to know a person's chart.
Okay.
Yeah.
But folks connected with it regardless.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Now
That's
I
pretty
love reading
cool.
the horoscope, even if it is that, you know, I've always liked that.
Me too.
Yeah, it gives you pause for thought, you know. It's in a way it's like tarot in that it's a meditative device.
Right.
Whereas when you have your chart done for real, like in detail, it's makes you think, but it's not the same.
Right.
You can't make stuff up with astrology. You have to see what it actually means. There are a lot of players involved.
Right.
You know, the planets, the signs, the houses, and it fits together. I mean, it's the music of the spheres. It's geometry. You know, and
yeah, it's math.
Yeah, it's math.
Yeah.
And if you don't put the parts together, it's just a big mess.
Right.
So that's how it's different from tarot. I think tarot is a lot more freeform.
Mm-hmm.
Like we know what something means, you know, but you're really able to kind of wiggle stuff.
Completely.
You know?
Yeah, tarot is so like moldable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it seems like it would be harder to teach and learn astrology because it's more like a science,
it's
right?
much harder to teach and learn astrology, and very few people that I've tried to teach it to have gone beyond the basics.
Mm-hmm.
They often develop a real appreciation for it from the classes, and it helps them understand when they get their chart done, what I'm really talking about.
Right.
It's deep and on a deeper level. And it also helps them with any of their other practices like tarot and, you know, any kind of magical stuff. But it's not easy.
No. The more I learn about astrology, the more I appreciate astrologers that are experts, because you learn like, oh, wow, you really have to know your stuff to be able to give someone that's useful.
You do. And it some of the things that drive me crazy are like, you know, everybody on Facebook going, oh my God, Mercury's retrograde. Oh my God, it's a full moon. Oh, well, fuck me. You know, it's a full moon again. You know? It's like,
it's only been 4 weeks since that happened.
My cat vomited on my table this morning. Mercury's retrograde. No, that's not why. No.
So even though I'm sure I have a lot of stuff to talk to you about, like, what do you feel about Mercury retrograde? How should...
Gee, I think you just got a clue.
Right. Like, should we pay any attention to it? Is it no big deal?
You know, I try not to really pay much attention to it because unless I'm planning an event or something weird's happening and I want to see why, I check and see where everything is. But retrogrades are really good for certain things. They're the right time for certain things. Anything that starts with basically, you know, like revisit something, finish something you started a long time ago. Okay. You know, things like that. And just remember that if you try to do, like your daily stuff that's supposed to go quick may go a little slower. You know, pay extra attention. Right. That's all it means. It's not that big a deal. Sometimes if there's a major event, like a retrograde happens with some other stuff and it's aspecting your personal chart, now that will affect you. Okay. So it's really important if you are going to pay attention to Mercury retrograde, you'd better know your own chart. Okay. Because if not, then you're just, you know, getting excited about nothing. Really.
You might freak out for no reason.
Yeah, you're just looking for drama, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's sure. I mean, you know, like I said, I try to pay as little attention as I can because I don't like drama. Okay. In my own personal world.
Yeah, I resonate with that completely. Yeah. So I'm holding your cards, the Magical Realism Tarot, and I'm wondering if you can share a little bit with us about the process of making your very own deck, you know?
Well, it was a long time coming. I first started to make my own tarot deck in 1800s.
Ooh.
1989.
This has spanned lifetimes.
That was Freudian, right? I'm old, but I'm not that old.
Really?
And 1989. And I was shooting mostly black and white then, so really, you know, I kind of scrapped the project. I did a few, I shot a few of the images and then scrapped the project. There is one image from that time period that's in this deck, though. and it's the Empress.
Okay.
I shot that in 1989.
Wow.
It's Julie Moon,
I'm
who was my
looking at her.
tattooist, and
Okay.
she's a beauty. And we shot it at the Baltimore Museum of Art Sculpture Garden.
Okay.
And it was really fun. There were these ladies visiting the museum, and they came out and said, "What do we have here?" And I said, "This is the Empress," and they curtsied. It was so cool.
They felt it.
It's the only one. She sold it at tattoo conventions and stuff. She loves it. It's her favorite picture of herself. And we're still friends after all these years, too, which is great. And she still tattoos me every year now.
That's great.
Yeah. Other than that, I put it aside until 2013. And I don't really know what prompted me to jump back in it. You know, it just like struck me that I should do it.
Uh-huh.
And I had already this is hilarious. I had already lined up the Hanged Man back in 1989.
Uh-huh.
And he had said, "Sure, I'll do it." And so he was the first one I shot for the new series, right? It is Harry Mackenzie. He's a ninjutsu instructor. You know, he's very physically fit.
Okay.
And he was, I think, 50 in this picture. Whereas I asked him, you know, like when he was like, you know, in his 20s.
Uh-huh.
And when it was over, he actually hung from a tree out there in Wyman Park.
Wow.
It was, I think I have behind the scenes pictures on the website. But yeah, that was pretty amazing. And he did a great job. And he told me that he felt like he was better for the part now than he was then.
Interesting.
Yeah. And he's done a lot of study of Odinistic stuff and runes and all that. And so I really felt like the Hanged Man was the Odin story, and that Harry was perfect for the part. And the whole family, the whole Mackenzie family is in my deck except for their little boy. His wife played, Tracy Mackenzie, who's my hairdresser, played the star.
Okay.
And she was perfect. We shoot together all the time, and
such a good card.
She's gorgeous.
Everyone listening just has to go on your website. What's your website?
It's magicalrealismtarot.com.
So you could even go right now and be looking at these images because they are so beautiful, and the combination of like the photography with this like just super magical and like mystical way that they're edited is so right on.
Thank you. And all of the images are also on my photography website, which is cherylfair.com.
Cool.
They're under the gallery that says tarot images.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you guys could be looking at these photos like while we're talking about them, because the star is so great, and I love her like white blonde hair.
It was a wig. But
it looks good.
Okay, this was shot on a median strip up at Spring Lake Drive, where they have little, you know, lake water. They have a koi pond.
Okay.
And I brought like 2 pictures from my own kitchen, and she's wearing the dress that her daughter wore in the Page of Cups.
Okay.
But we wanted it to be short, so we just lopped it off with a pair of scissors right there.
Wow.
And she put on a wig that she borrowed from a friend.
Wow.
And so we shot very casually, and all the rest is post-production, obviously. It was daytime. It's now nighttime in the car. It's, you know, it's, most of my work is done in post-production.
Right.
I worked with analog photography for years, you know, worked in darkroom, did mostly band pictures of actors and models and bands for a living, you know. And when I switched to digital, I didn't like the way it made people look, because you see flaws that you don't see in real life. And so in my attempt to make things look the way I wanted them to, I made them look more magical than they really look, because that's how I see people, you know. So this was my way of being able to make things look the way I want them to look. And with the cards, it just felt like all my skills fell together. Yeah. Like the tarot, you know, the card reading tradition in my family, my affinity for Photoshop, and my gorgeous friends who all were picked for their similarity to the archetype that the card represents.
Okay.
So yeah.
And it's fun to know it's super fun to know the connection between the different cards. Like, I remember I was looking at the Page of Cups and like vibing on that earlier. And then the fact that it's like the Daughter of the Star is so special to know, and like their connection with you. But also looking at these images and knowing that they're shot like in Baltimore City, and they don't look like that at all. They look like they're out of a fairy tale, you know? So it's
it's
impressive.
how I see the world. It's how I see people. You know, I have the luxury of living in my own little fantasy world most of the time, and it was really fun to be able to do that. Because what I feel like when I'm taking pictures, it's almost it's like I'm giving somebody my vision of them that's really beautiful, you know. And sometimes it's a healing thing for people,
right?
Because there's a lot of problems. People are pressured to look a certain way, especially women, but men too, really. And it saps everybody's confidence, you know. And then the big emphasis on image, and you know, if there's no picture, it didn't happen. And all that kind of shit. But so I feel like my photography is special in that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. It really like gives the person a gift, even though they're paying me sometimes. You know, it's like.
But you deserve to be compensated, especially if you're able to give them something that's healing for them.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I paid my therapist, you know.
There you go.
And I would pay if I've paid photographers. You know, it's like I think everybody should be paid. It doesn't have to be cash. I think barter's awesome. But I think everybody should be paid for what they do.
Like an energetic exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's not an exchange of energy, it's out of balance and it's wrong. It's just morally wrong. Yeah. So, I mean, I pay somebody to read my cards. Yeah. And then people pay me to read their cards. Yeah. You know, it's okay. It's okay to accept money for what you're good at.
Yeah. And then I bet the healing and the fun that people have in creating these shoots probably just adds to the magic of the actual card. Don't you feel that way?
It totally does.
Like you pick them for a reason, so their energy's there. Yeah. And then if working on this project like helped them, that's gonna all be in these cards.
Yeah. And this is funny. Lydia was the moon, and Paula Millette is her mother, and Paula designed the borders and the backs for the cards. Mm-hmm. And Lydia is the 6 foot tall goddess, and I picked her for the moon, even though she's a Gemini, because she's a Cancer ascendant and has the moon on the ascendant in Cancer. Okay. So she really projects that lunar image, you know. Yeah. And I just loved it. And she's wearing the vintage dress, and I think the moon has that feel of old timiness, and you know, and I put her face in the moon as well as having her figure on
I like just noticed that now.
And she's in front of the water, and the moon's a watery thing, you know, stuff like that. I have a story for every card.
I love that. And she has these little like eyes in her hands.
Yeah, because of the insight of the moon, you know, and the whole. It's very inward and intuitive. So
I vibe with that. It's a good moon card.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One reviewer didn't like my moon card. It's really funny because it's one of my favorite reviews that's been done of my deck online. She didn't like a whole lot of the cards, but she liked it in general a lot, and she was hilarious. She drank a beer while she was doing it, and she liked my packaging a lot. And she said my favorite thing, which was she talked about how she likes metal cans and all that stuff, and she goes, hashtag bitch means business. And I thought, yes, I do.
Yes.
And then she said, if it was a character, I'd make this deck Snape.
Oh.
And I thought, okay.
I like that.
I did too. I thought it was a great review.
It's a potions master kind of a deck.
Yeah.
You could really like whip something up with it.
Yeah, it looks a little scary, but underneath it's good. You know?
Yeah. I see that because the back of the deck, which I love also, but it's so like metallic and looks like alchemical in some way, you know.
I wanted it to.
And the elemental.
And it has that, you know, because of the signs for the earth, air, fire, and
water,
all the triangles and stuff. And
yeah.
So yeah.
So you can really get the kind of like heady, I don't know, even like Aquarian
Mhm.
kind of a vibe from the back of it, maybe.
And it has to be reversible, which it is. So
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate when a deck has a back that
I do
you can
too.
tell.
There's no surprise.
Yeah, exactly. That was like something, that was a whole thing for me. I was like, okay, I like this back, but because like I had a friend who helped me too, just like Paula was able to help
Yeah.
you. So I was like, okay, I love this back, but how can we get it so it's reversible
Yeah.
without giving it away? That was like
Yeah.
an important thing. Did you always have, so in 2013 you revisited and you started
Yeah.
like taking photos again.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to kind of get all those? Did you just start with
About a year.
getting all the photos? That's quick, I think.
It was quick. I worked my ass off.
Yeah.
And I was shooting like sometimes four a week.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and there's 38 cards with people on them.
Okay.
Some of them have
Majors and the page.
3 people on them.
There's the
some
court
have 1.
cards.
Most have 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I made the Pips cards to be just illustrations of the suit.
Right.
Partly because of my family background of reading with regular playing cards.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the pip cards, the ace through the 10, they don't have an illustrated scene. They just have a representation of that suit. So like I'm looking at the 10 of Pentacles and it has 10 pentacles on it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking at.
And it's on autumn leaves. It's, it's like it brings out the colors of the elements.
Completely. And the
earth.
water,
Yeah,
and the cups. Yeah. I like the cups a lot. I mean, I always
I made the
identify as cups a lot. You did?
I did.
How'd you make this
I got a
cup?
goblet from a thrift store and painted it silver and glued all kinds of gems on it.
It truly looks like a grail.
It does.
It looks really good.
I still have it.
I love it.
Thank you.
So, okay, so that's cool. So the pips were like an honor to and a callback to that
Yes.
history with the playing cards.
Yes, and I got a lot of crap about it at first.
Uh-huh.
There was a lady online who followed me to all my websites saying, too bad the designer was too lazy to illustrate that. Okay, so my response was to write an article for Cartomancer magazine that said, it was called Pip Pip Hooray, and it talked about how there's no such thing as unillustrated pips. First of all, it's not, they're illustrated.
Right.
They're pips.
We're looking at them.
Yeah. And then I talked about, representational art, non-representational art, and, that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So
Yeah.
when people irritate me, I usually pull that, no, this is what it means kind of thing.
Well, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
So, it can be annoying on both sides, I'm sure, but I did it on purpose. That's my whole point is I did it on purpose.
I truly love it because I like to use the Marseille deck a lot.
It's in the same pattern, yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people who are like amazing tarot readers that have studied a lot of tarot still know nothing about the Marseille and wouldn't even recognize the Marseille and the pips without the scenes as they probably wouldn't even know what the word pip is, to be honest.
Right.
And it's like it's frustrating sometimes because it doesn't take like that much in my mind to do like a tiny bit of research into what tarot is. So
yeah, exactly. And it's a lot of it is numerology. So, it forces the person to think about that part of it too. It's, with a pip like this, it doesn't have a scene on it, you get the number and the element. That tells you a lot right there.
It really does.
So,
yeah.
And that's the thing with the cards. I do believe that the 4 suits break down into 4 elements.
Okay.
Even though I don't believe that there's a direct astrological correlation for each card.
Okay.
But I do. I totally went with the 4 elements. But in my deck, I put the Earth cards, the Pentacle cards, as autumn because of the harvest and all that. I mean, how can you be earthy? And I just didn't think of Earth as winter, as being barren. And then I made swords winter because it's thought and it's, it seemed metallic and I don't know. So that's how I did it. I have the wands are fire and cups are water, obviously. Summer.
Well, I love it. And Oh, sorry. This thing, my phone's buzzing, and I don't know, anyone on the podcast might have heard it. I don't know if it buzzed the table, but it's not even my fault because they're sending me like an emergency notification or something.
I got the same
So
one.
yeah, it's really not our fault. Like, we turned our phones off. Okay, anyway, I hope that doesn't happen again, but sorry. So I'll just say I love your pip cards,
Well,
and I'm
appreciate
really
that.
excited to like start experimenting with this deck.
These are, every time I see them, I see the people and think about the shoots. This little
Yeah,
girl is
the
awesome. She's an
sun.
artist. She was almost 5 in this,
Yeah.
and she's lovely. Her parents are both artists. Her name is Harlan Stab Sullivan, and I saw a video of her on Instagram spray painting recently with the t-shirt over her face. Her dad is a really well-known graffiti artist,
Yeah.
and her mother's a painter.
She's beautiful.
Yeah.
I definitely know that name.
Yeah.
Stab. You see it around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a really wonderful child too. And when it was over, I had 3 sunflowers, you know, and I made them into a field here.
Okay.
But and so she's carrying the sunflower. When it was over,
Right.
I said, "You can have the flowers." And she said, "For a minute," and she goes, "I'll keep one."
Aww.
She was so darling. And I really liked her. And it's funny because even though she's the sun, I found her to be very sunny, you know, so I picked her, but she's actually a Scorpio.
Oh.
I have an affinity for Scorpios, though. But she seemed very solar, and I haven't seen her chart, but I'm sure she has some solar qualities in her chart.
Right. I love having a little girl as the sun.
Yeah,
you know,
me too.
It just kind of mixes it up and gives the sun something a little new, and I like that.
It lightens
a lot.
it up a little, because my deck's kind of heavy looking because it's black and it's
right.
You know, it's probably my Scorpios ending coming through, but it's nice. She's kind of like lightens up the whole
it's
thing.
It's a very bright card in the deck.
Oh, the other Mackenzie girl. That's what I was
Yeah.
going to come up with the Mackenzies here because they're all in it. One is Strength.
Okay.
She's their older daughter, and Laura. And when I did the shoot, we used their Greyhound dog in place of the lion, so that I could have a placeholder.
Okay.
And then this is the only one that has like a picture I didn't take in it. It has the lion was a public domain picture of the lion, and I put it in there. But that's why it's so easy for her to look lovingly at it. Because actually her dog.
She's there with her beautiful dog. Yeah. What a beautiful family.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah. It's funny to see the whole family lines up like that.
I love that.
And then the Page of Cups
is
their other daughter.
Yeah.
And their son was too little to be in it at the time. He's in high school now, but he was the wrong age and size for any parts. He was too young to be a knight.
Yeah.
And you know, and I had female pages.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And Orla's a ballerina, and she's incredible. I've done shoots with her several times, and she did a music video for me too.
Nice.
She's
I
great.
love the Page of Cups. Like, that's a card I vibe with.
Well,
so
yeah.
this is a really nice one.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I like that all the pages are female. That's cool.
It balanced it out better because the knights are male. I mean, it could have made female knights and male pages, you know, but it's just how I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it took about a year to get the photos done, how long was that production? And I mean, I guess you had to design all of the pip cards.
Yeah.
So when were you launching the Kickstarter and getting it ready?
I'm trying to remember what the dates were. I know that I finally got the shipment of cards and put it out in January of 2015.
Okay. So overall, you're looking at that.
Yeah, but it took like 6 months because there was a weird, like a dock worker strike or something.
Really?
And they got stuck in California for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It was really frustrating.
That must have been so frustrating.
So it was at least 6 months before that I finished.
Okay.
And my husband and Paula were the ones that kept me on track.
Okay.
Because by the end, it's not fun anymore. You know, I'm done making the pretty pictures.
Yeah.
And Paula had already designed the stuff, and you know, we're just trying to proofread and make sure everything's right for the printer. Because if you screw that up, that's it. You know.
Right.
And I launched a Kickstarter, which is way more stressful than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a full-time job. But it was worth it. I got about $7,000 through Kickstarter.
Wow.
And it cost about $12,000 to do this correctly.
Wow.
Because I looked at publication agreements with the big companies, with like Schiffer and, Llewellyn and they're crappy agreements. The lawyer in me came out, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't do this,
Do you have to give up a lot of your rights to your deck? You give up your rights
and you get very little money, and you don't have any control over anything. And it just sucks. So I wanted to do it myself, which is a whole lot of work and continues to be more work than you would think.
Right.
But it's worth it to me. And it also made it so that I could control the production quality and the cost, and so that I could offer the deck at a reasonable price to people, because a lot of independent tarot artists end up doing the print on demand, which is super expensive, and they end up making no profit at all. So if they ever want to do another project or start over, they can't.
Right.
Without starting over with the money.
Completely.
I did this the same way you do any business, and it's just manufacturing. It's you keystone everything.
Okay.
Basically, and it was a lot of work to find the right printer, the right people that make bags, the right, what I mean? All the stuff, because I didn't want it to be crap.
Right.
Because you do see a lot of crap out there.
Yeah, you really do. Unfortunately, you'll see like a beautiful art, but if it's not like some card quality is not. Like, it's the card quality that really gets me. But like your cards are beautiful.
Yeah, they have a nice cardstock. But the one disappointment I had was I really wanted an American company printer, and I found an American printer.
Yeah.
And they subbed it to China.
Really?
And I was pissed. But it was the same quality that I expected, but I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to have it printed here.
Yeah.
For one thing, I mean, this is just like a weird personal quirk. I like stuff to be where I can get to it if I have to.
Sure.
Yeah. I want to drive down there and go, hey, look at this.
Yeah. And when you get something, because like when I was researching too, like there's a lot of printers in Asia, but when you're doing that, the shipping's going to be huge, especially if you're on the East Coast of America. Yeah.
$1,000 for shipping.
So much.
I was so but it was already done. You know what I mean? I couldn't change it at that point.
Completely.
And I am happy with the quality. I really am.
Yeah.
And then I got the bags, from a place in California, and the booklets were printed in Baltimore.
Okay,
Yay!
beautiful. Yeah, the booklets are very sweet.
They're just, little white book.
Yeah, but you need it.
I put stuff in it. You do need them, because even if you are used to reading cards, everybody has their own things that they put in, because each deck has a different personality.
Mm-hmm. And it's so valuable to hear from the artist.
I think it is.
Yeah, so I love it.
And I'm about to do a reprint on the booklets, because I only got 500 the first time, and I'm almost out.
So is that how many decks you ordered the first time around? 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, but I only have booklets for half of them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because at the time I was running out of money,
And did you have a big release party in Baltimore? Was it really fun? It must have felt so satisfying to finally release them, right? Yeah.
It was a wind-up space.
Cool.
And I had 38 things on the wall, and we had performers, because everyone in the deck is a performer or artist or musician or something, So we had people that were in the deck perform.
Did you have some burlesque performances?
We had burlesque.
How fun.
We had 3 burlesque artists. We had a couple of bands and, the improv.
Cool.
One wasn't a band, it was like a folk guitar, There was all kinds of stuff. It was great. Yeah, it was kind of an out-of-body experience for me.
Right.
Because it was the same week, I believe, that one of my photographs was on the big light-up billboard on Charles Street.
Oh, cool.
So I was like, oh my God.
You were having a moment.
My stuff's everywhere. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, truly, congratulations, because I definitely know how difficult it is to self-publish your own deck, and I didn't even order 1,000, so and mine was only 22 cards, so yours is a whole next level, and it's a really beautiful product.
Thank you.
That I know people appreciate.
It's a 78 card deck.
Yeah,
it's a lot of cards.
It is.
Yeah, I was when we got them. It was cold. It was like January when they showed up, and the truck was on some truck that was too big to fit in the alley.
Okay.
And we're like unloading them on this hydraulic dolly and stuff. It was crazy. I think we took pictures of ourselves in front of this massive stack of cards. It was fun.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if someone is out there and maybe they're getting like your tarot deck is their first one, or they're just getting into tarot and they're super inspired, like, do you have some go-to advice that you like to share with folks?
Oh.
No pressure.
I hadn't really thought about it. Read the book. Yeah, read the booklet.
There you go.
And go through the deck one card at a time and kind of contemplate it and learn the deck, feel it, and read the book. And really, when I get a new deck, I don't do readings without reading each meaning for a while.
Okay.
Because even though I know the meaning, or I think I know the meaning, it can be different, and it's really good to get what the creator of the deck had to say about it when they, what they had in mind.
Yeah.
And so it's also a good way to learn tarot anyway.
Nice.
Is to just keep doing readings and reading the book. It's boring, but it's true.
Yeah. No, you're right. And then, I want to talk about the class that you have, or the discussion that we're opening up with BMore Tarot Club.
Yeah.
So we're just so excited to have you come and share all about tarot and astrology. So that's going to be October 1st, and I'll put links in the show notes to basically everything, but especially this discussion, because I feel like folks are really going to want to come out and hear what you have to share. But I'm wondering if you can give us a little teaser and tell us what we might learn.
Basically, that this could be a spoiler. That people like to correlate astrology with tarot, but they are two different languages. And just as some words don't translate well into English from other languages, certain astrological concepts don't translate into tarot, and vice versa. You wouldn't need them both if they were the same. And there are different methods people have used to associate astrological things with tarot cards, specific cards, and most of them make no sense. They don't even agree with each other. You can take 5 decks and they all have different assignments, So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the basic nature of planets and houses and signs versus the basic nature of the major arcana. I'm not going to address the Pips cards because it's just too much.
Okay.
And how the numerology doesn't match up for it to be astrological specifically.
Okay. So then you don't agree with like I feel like the typical assignments that people get are usually like what you find is like, this is the correct is like hermetic order of the Golden Dawn and that layout. You don't agree? I
do not agree. No, me and Uncle Al, we don't agree. And I also, and his is kind of confounding anyway. It's the prince of the air, of the sky, of the, it's like, yeah, okay. And I have his deck, by the way, and I think it's
We're
beautiful.
talking about Crowley.
Yeah, we're talking about Crowley. I think the artwork is beautiful.
I agree with that.
But yeah, I'm not a Crowley follower.
I mean, sorry to like groan like that. I'm just like, we had a discussion about Crowley yesterday at Tarot Club because of how he switched around the strength.
The 11 and the 8.
Yeah, well, he actually kept it like original, but he changed the name. So he changed strength to lust, and I was like talking about how annoying and sexist he is, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree with you. But I'm not here to throw shade on Crowley.
Yeah, I guess.
But the other method that people use are like, first card means Aries, second card means Taurus, and blah blah. And when the thing that prompted me to do this talk was I saw somebody say the Chariot is Cancer. And I'm like, no. So rather than like jumping on a thread and going, no, you idiot, I want to explain why it's not.
Right.
I want to talk about why it's not.
I'm so excited for this class then, because the Chariot always confused me as to why it was Cancer, and then I felt like I was always kind of fitting it in and like making it work in some kind of way, but it kind of doesn't make sense, right?
No.
So is there a way that you kind of can use tarot and astrology together? Are we going to talk about that?
Actually, there is, yeah.
Right.
Well, there are astrological layouts, which I find to be very useful because of the houses, and you use card for each house.
Okay.
You can extend that even, and if you know your chart and you know your transits, then you can do card readings that give you a more emotional insight into what's going on with your transits. Because I do both. I look at my transits, say I'm having like this kind of long-term Saturn thing going on. I'll read my cards and what if I do this? What if I do that? How do I deal with this?
Right. When you pull cards for yourself or a client, do you kind of stick to a spread, or are you more improvisational or like conversational?
With clients, I stick to spreads.
Okay.
Yeah. With myself, I'm improvisational.
So like if you're reading for your transits, are you like, feeling like, oh, I feel 3 cards for this, and that'll tell me what it's about?
Yeah, or even 1 card.
Okay.
So it depends. And if I'm doing it often, because I'll go periods of time where I don't read my cards at all.
Right.
But if I'm doing it a lot, I'll often just pick 1 card.
1 is enough sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. But I think with clients, it's better to stick to a structure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any spreads that you would recommend someone try?
There's
no
one
pressure.
There's one I've been using for a while. I don't even know what it's called actually. There's this. It's a 13-card spread. I just illustrated it for the woman who does the tarot box subscriptions and included my deck in her September box, and she put it in her pamphlet.
Cute.
And so it was nicely explained. Maybe I'll bring that with me or something.
Fun.
But it's card in the middle, which is the question. 3 cards at the bottom are all the querent. The 3 cards to the reader's right are the current time period.
Okay.
3 cards at the top. The center is kind of the path to go on to get to the end correctly, and the 2 on the sides are the obstacles.
Okay.
And then the ones on the left, the 3 cards on the left, are the future, and they're, depending on what the cards are, they're either obstacles on the way to the result, or just events on the way to the result.
Okay.
Things that have to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And then the last card, of course, is the outcome.
Okay.
So and I use that all the time now.
That sounds fun.
I'm not a big Celtic Cross fan.
Okay.
Although I used it in the beginning, when I was learning. I think that's how everybody starts.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work for me as well. It's just,
right.
I found that I was doing it backwards for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so on the last 4 cards, I was doing it from the top down instead of the bottom up.
Okay.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter because as long as you know what you mean, it's
completely.
Okay. But yeah, it's just not my favorite one. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
And I like 3 cards are great because they can be past, present, and future. Inner, outer. They can be anything.
I love 3 cards.
Yeah, 3 cards are great.
Yeah.
And like I said, 1 card is good for certain things. And but with clients, I usually do the big 13-card spread, and I usually do 3 of them.
Really?
Yeah, to get more insight. But I also never use my own deck because there's my artwork and they're my friends and my family. And I tried and I found that I'm going, oh my God, here's my Beth. It's like I went to a reader in Massachusetts, and she was lovely. Her name was Gloria Ward, and she's a really good reader. And she uses 3 decks at a time, and one of them was my deck. So I'm getting my cards read. She's using my deck. Through the whole reading, I'm going, oh my God, there's Brandon.
That's
oh,
my
look,
friend.
There's George. It's like, yeah, that doesn't work.
Right.
So I love my deck, and I love it when people use it for real readings, but I don't use it for readings.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But I can see that now because they're all your friends.
Yeah, I thought I would grow away from that, but I didn't. It's been 3 years, I think, and
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So what decks do you use?
I use a deck that's not tarot.
Cool.
It's a really silly little deck called the Mahjong deck.
Okay.
And the cards are teeny. They're like this big.
Yeah.
And there's 144 of them, I think. And there's like a whole bunch of each one except for the Guardian cards. There's only, 1 of each of the Guardian cards.
Okay.
And I use it for my clients.
Yeah.
And I use it for myself sometimes. I use all kinds of stuff. I love the Aquarian deck.
Okay.
Actually, it's old, but I really like it.
Yeah.
I like the medicine cards.
Okay.
I like the Celtic. There's one Celtic animals or something. I use it all the time. I don't remember what it's called, but it's really cool. It's Celtic animals, and it comes
cool.
from, it's there are. Like I said, I have about 30 decks, and I just kind of look through them and pick one that I feel like that day and grab one.
Cool.
But I hardly ever use Crowley's deck. I have it as, because I feel like I should have it.
Yeah.
But I don't use it. I tried using it when I first got it, and it doesn't resonate with me.
Uh-huh. Cool.
Yeah.
I love that you use not even a traditional tarot deck for your clients. That's so fascinating.
I just think it's more honest of me personally.
Yeah.
It's because my attachment is odd. You know what I mean? I think that it's great when people use whatever deck they use is going to work. Like I said, I grew up with people using playing cards. Right. So I think all of them work. And I know there are a lot of people that are, I know people who have made Lenormand decks.
Okay.
And, other oracle decks, and they're all fine.
Right.
I personally like tarot a lot. When I don't use those Mahjong cards, I use the tarot.
Right. It all works, though.
Yeah, it does.
Right?
It does all work. And I had a friend who was my student for a while, and now she's a professional reader in New Orleans, and she's in the deck. Aww. She's the Page of Pentacles.
Oh.
Yeah. Little Luna. She was in burlesque here, and now she's been in New Orleans for several years now.
She's beautiful.
She's gorgeous. Yeah. And she has a little shop, and she reads cards for a living.
Nice.
Yeah. And I taught her the Mahjong stuff and tarot, and she does it all. That's what she does now.
Now she's running with it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I wonder if there are any are there any tips that you could give us from working with the playing cards that you think is applicable? I mean, I guess we already talked about the time, maybe that's a good one.
The timing is a good one. And
right.
My mom used to use the Aquarian card based on the person's coloring.
Okay.
And she would always tell me I was the Queen of Clubs, that I would be the Queen of Clubs when I was older.
Okay.
I was really young when she was telling me this, and things like that. But
that's a funny,
it's
old
just
school.
Yeah, very, very old school. If you could probably find a book on how to do it.
Completely.
It's like, the old ladies who live in the woods in a trailer doing it.
I love that. There's real magic there.
There is. We didn't live in a trailer, but it is. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, tell everyone again just where to find you, where to buy your deck.
My deck is on. I prefer people to buy it from my Etsy store.
Great.
Which is Cheryl Fair Art. But I also sell it on Amazon, and I also sell it wholesale, so it's for sale in stores around the country. Not a ton of them, but independent metaphysical stores. Yeah. None in Baltimore, interestingly.
We gotta get on that.
I've approached one person who ignored me completely. I'm like, okay.
All right. Baltimore's tarot community is weird sometimes like that. It's there's so many people, but sometimes it's how can I get in?
And another person said, I'll sell them on consignment. And I was like, no, I'm not selling them on consignment. Right. They're tarot cards.
Right.
This is not, a sculpture. This
Completely.
is tarot cards. So, yeah, I haven't successfully sold them to any stores.
So if you're in Baltimore, pick it up. Yeah, really. You could be a Baltimore exclusive.
Yes, you could. And, the minimum wholesale order is only 5 decks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Get on this.
I know.
Well, I'll put a link, of course, to your Etsy in the show notes so people will be able to find that. And they can get the deck there, and they can order a tarot reading or an astrology reading.
I don't have the tarot reading listed.
Oh,
only
my bad.
The astrology. Okay. Yeah, the tarot reading, I only do readings for people that know people that I'm for.
That's an exclusive.
I get, if you can contact me, and I'll probably say okay.
There you go.
But I'm just really hesitant to throw it out there to the general public.
Sure.
Because when I used to have a shop years ago, and anybody could walk in off the street into my store, which was great for buying things, but not so great for readings. It really attracted a lot of crazy people.
Yeah.
And I found that I really don't feel comfortable reading in public.
Okay.
Like I'll do parties occasionally,
Mhm.
you know, which is I actually enjoy, where somebody will invite like their friends and they all sit around and talk downstairs, and I'm in a room upstairs and they come up one at a time and I read.
Right.
And that's really cool. But like I love it that you and Rain are doing the Golden
West,
Nights,
yeah.
but I can't do that anymore. I used to do that kind of thing.
Right.
I can't deal with the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to talk about sensitive stuff when there's people shouting is hard.
It is hard.
And I also, you do a certain amount of like emotional and spiritual preparation to read people's cards. And when it's just wham, bam, bam, and there's so many people around you, it's very difficult to keep your shit together.
It really is.
And I admire you for doing it, but I don't do that anymore.
I respect you for having that boundary and saying, I did it and now I'm not into it, because that's so understandable.
Yeah, I just don't feel like it's fair to me or them. And because my readings are done in my home for the most part, I'm really careful about who I read for.
That makes sense.
I gotta know somebody.
Yeah. But folks will get an astrology reading.
Oh yeah,
over the
I don't
phone.
even need to meet them, because
right.
astrology's math based.
Right.
And I find it to be very helpful, very accurate. I have lots of references. Like people, if they want to know, I can tell them, ask this person, ask that person.
Oh, sure.
And they can order it through Etsy. And yeah.
Great. And then we'll put a link to all your websites and then again, the Tarot Club Astrology Night. Come on out. It's going to be so fun, October 1st.
I'm excited about it.
I'm excited to have you.
Thank
you so much. Thanks for being on the podcast. I feel like we could go even longer. I feel like there's even more to talk about. So maybe we'll have to have you on again at some time. Sure. And it was just really nice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Goodbye, podcast listeners. Thank you.